Unspoken Issues.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Unspoken Issues podcast. Oh my goodness, it is good to be back. It is good to be back. This is Jesse Starcher, and joining me, of course, the man who held it down. He's still holding it down. The man, the myth, the legend, Chris Armstrong. Chris Armstrong, buddy. It has been a while since I've had the opportunity to talk.
It's been a minute. Good to have you back.
Hey, man, I'm glad. So we're doing a little something different on this episode here, where we are actually participating in a event called the Super Blog Team Up. So the Super Blog Team Up is a gathering, I guess you would say, of bloggers, podcasters who come together to discuss a certain topic. I can tell you that we've had a discussion about speedball. That was one of the first ones I had the opportunity to participate in. It was oh my goodness, hold on, not repentance. It was
penance.
Yes. He went by penance. What was the name of the theme? Hold on, I'm thinking of it. It was redemption. So yeah, Chris Bailey said he basically sets out a topic out there and says, okay, guys, whatever you want to provide, just try to make it central around this theme. So the first one I participated in was in the theme of redemption, and I talked about the redemption of Speedball as he turned into penance and then back into Speedball. It was a fun episode. I learned a lot about a character that I didn't know much about. So this year,
we did Chromium last year too, right? Or was that a different?
No, that's right. We participated in Chromium, and that was January, I think. Okay. We did. Yeah, we did. Oh, yeah, that's right. This would be our second time the Unspoken Issues participated, right? Because we did the
Dark Clock number 25.
That's right. So this quarter's theme, this event's theme is called Expanded Universe. So, I mean, that really covers a lot of properties out there. One of the ones that comes to mind is Star Wars. That started as a movie franchise, and then it became comics, it became toys, it became this, it became that. So I'll read to you the blurb that Mr. Chris Bailey wrote here. Superblog Team Up explores franchises with rich histories and fascinating expanded universes in various media, from movies to toys, television, novels, animation, and of course comic books, just to name a few. These universes further a character, storyline, or a whole universe, adding texture and new history to a property, unleashing worlds of new ideas and concepts. With some properties, these universes advance the franchise forward, giving their legions of fans fun new concepts to digest, while others sink once bright ideas to mere corporate shelves of themselves. Superblog Team Up is back to explore some uncharted territory as we open up the universal gateway to expansion. God save us all. All right. So Chris Bailey reaches out to me and he says, hey, Jesse, I want to get Chris Armstrong in on this. And I was like, okay, let's do this. Yeah, I'm sure he'd love to participate. So you made the decision this year, this quarter, this event. That's what I want to go with. I need to remember that. This event to participate. You made a decision. You chose something that's going to fit in with this theme. So lay it on us, man. What was it?
Well, normally, we do a poll for every episode and let our Facebook friends choose what issue we cover. And I had two separate ideas that I thought would work for this, and I completely forgot what the other one was. And I still can't remember what the other one was. But I was kind of leaning towards the one we're going with anyway, and I was hoping it was gonna win anyway. So I just decided to make the unilateral decision. We're gonna go with Mad Dog, which is a Marvel comic from 1993, and the expanded universe aspect would be that it is a comic book that is spun off of a television sitcom. Bob Newhart, who is kind of a legendary comedian, all-time sitcom, guy. He's had a couple of really popular ones throughout the late 70s to the late 80s, maybe early 90s. He had two different shows that were really big. And then he came into the early 90s with one called just Bob. I think his first show was called The Bob Newhart Show. Yep. And he had one called Newhart.
That's the one I remember. It had my brother Daryl, my other brother Daryl.
Right. I never really liked those shows. My parents always were watching them, and I always thought they just weren't. I mean, they weren't something that kids would really like, I don't think.
No, I could remember it being on the TV, and there were a few times that I watched the episodes, and I think a lot of it, just like you said, it was probably more geared towards adults than it would be, me I was probably just getting into my teens if I was watching any of those shows, if that, and I didn't understand them. I'd rather watch something different. I'd rather watch Alf. Alf is probably on.
Oh, big time. Newhart was kind of like Cheers. It was like an old person's sitcom to me. But yeah, Alf was totally right in my wheelhouse as a 9-year-old or whatever, whenever it premiered. But I've become a pretty big fan of Bob Newhart as I've gotten older. Like his delivery and his like comedic timing, he's a really unique voice, and I really like Newhart now. He's great in like interviews I've seen with him and cameos he makes on like The Simpsons or other shows and stuff. So
still kicking. I would probably he's 90 years old.
Yeah, he's getting up there. He was on Conan O'Brien's podcast last year. It was awesome.
Oh, wow.
He I would probably like the Newhart shows if I went back and watched them now. I never have. But Bob was his newer attempt, and he might have had sitcoms since then. I'm not certain. But in '93, he put this one out where he was a retired comic book artist, and this was in the heat of the comic boom. 1992, right after Superman died.
Yeah.
So that probably had something to do with that being the part of the plot. And I was all in because it was a show about comic books and people who made comic books. So it was going to be great. I just knew it. And I watched a few episodes. I don't remember much about them. It got canceled pretty quickly, though.
Yeah, it only lasted 2 seasons. First season went 25 episodes, and then looks like the second season went about 8. So I want to talk about the show. So should we talk about the show right now?
Yeah, or do you do that, and then we'll move on to the comic.
Okay, all right. So you gave me the pilot, and I watched it. And
yeah, pilot's on YouTube.
Yep, you can find it on YouTube. It's interesting because you knew about it going into it. I had no idea it existed. So I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, this is an interesting concept. Here we have Bob Newhart, who plays Bob McKay. His character was, according to the Wikipedia here, it says he created the character Mad Dog in the 1950s and ended up being a casualty of the Comics Code Authority. So this episode opens up and Bob McKay has gone on since Mad Dog, and he's become a greeting card, artist, I believe, right, is what he's drawing for greeting cards, and gets a phone call, and it turns out that this comic company, which had the longest name it was owned by here it is, the American Canadian Transcontinental Communications Company, and then they rattled off a nice quick anagram of that or whatever it was there on the show. But anyway, so they call him up and they're like, hey, we want your character. We'd love to talk to you about bringing your character back. And I don't know if I can't remember if in the episode they were going to write him a check and get the character, but obviously Bob was still, he still had some type of control over what was going on.
He owned the rights to the character or something like that.
But either way, there was a big check involved, and he was like, okay, I'm done doing the greeting cards. I want to go back to, writing about and drawing what I was doing 30 years prior, 40 years prior. And it's clearly his love is drawing and creating for this character, Mad Dog. So he goes and he meets the people at the comic company who he's worked for in the past, he's worked with, I should say. There was I think there was an artist lady that he knew from the past, but he gets the meeting. We'll just say the Jim Lee, I guess. The Jim Lee of this comic company. And what was his name? My goodness, I can't remember. Hold on. I had it here. No, I don't.
You talking about the artist?
No, the
head guy.
The head guy, the corporate
Harlan,
dude.
I think was his name.
Harlan, there we go. So Harlan brings him in and says, yeah, he goes, I've got great ideas for your character. And so Bob, created Mad Dog and all the characters around him, and it was kind of a wholesome character, a Silver Age character, if you will. At least that was his intention. So now this guy wants to take him, and this is 92, folks. This guy wants to take this character and make him extreme, I guess is the word. Sure. He wants to make him according to this, what I'm reading here, a bloodthirsty vigilante. Mad Dog is going to become a bloodthirsty vigilante. Bob Newhart, or Bob McKay, is not too enthused about that, tells the guy to go basically leave. Yeah, leave me alone. He leaves.
Got his blood up.
Yeah.
That was an aggressive Bob Newhart. You don't see that very often.
Yes, that's right. So he leaves. He's mad. He doesn't want anything there. And granted, there's some humor in there, but it's definitely 90s humor where, Harlan is just saying, all these things about how Mad Dog and his sidekick buddy there was homoerotic stuff going on in there. I mean, just the classic quintessential stuff you heard about Batman and Robin. And anyway, Bob McKay says, nope, I'm out. Leaves. Doesn't want anything to happen to his character. Well, the head guy, I guess, the owner of this huge company, gets on the phone with Bob. Well, he's actually on the phone all the time, and just about any speaker you could find. But he says, hey, I like both of your ideas. And so at the end, when it's all said and done, they come to an agreement. Bob and Harlan are going to try and work together. And that's kind of where that first episode leaves us. Now, a few things about that first episode, okay? I just tell you one, which I thought was awesome. I don't know if you read this, but according to the Wikipedia, I guess in episode 15 of season 1, there are comic book artists Bob Kane, Jack Kirby, Mel Lazarus, Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri, Mel Kiefer, Paul Power, Art Thibert, and Sergio how do you say that? Aragones?
I don't know how to pronounce it. The Gru guy.
Yeah, the Gru guy. Anyway, they showed up in that episode. So that's season 15, or excuse me, episode 15. That was ways on down the road. But either way, I was looking for them in that first episode. I'm like, I do not see these guys anywhere. No wonder. But anyway, so there you go. That's kind of where the show, the first episode, the pilot is. Now, again, this show went on first season, 25 episodes, and then season 2 in 93 goes 8 episodes. What's crazy is that in season 1, it's all about the conflict and him being working for this comic book company with this character and all the hijinks that ensue. In season 2, they completely revamp everything.
Right.
And when it comes back, he's working as president, or at least he's hired as president of the greeting card company, and he's working like for Betty White, which,
Yeah, they basically, from my understanding, from what I could tell, the show wasn't very successful. So they brought it back for the second season, and they just were like, we're just going to totally revamp everything. And the setting was completely different. The only things that got carried over, I think, were Bob and his wife, basically.
Yeah, all the people he was working with gone.
Yeah,
it's just like, well,
and then it was canceled almost immediately.
Yeah, and this issue of the comic book comes out at the end of season 1. It looks like the comic book comes out, or at least the cover date's May. So what was that? April, probably March,
probably, yeah,
of 93. So that's the date I have here, is that it was in 93. So it's near the end of the first season. It's going to be, you see the comic book hit the shelves. Okay. All right. Now, before we proceed any further, do you have anything you wanted to say about the pilot episode? Because I definitely want to talk about at least my experience with the comic before we get into the synopsis and stuff.
Yeah, just the pilot episode, again, it's on YouTube. It's kind of a neat oddity for comic fans, I think, if anybody wants to check it out. It's not good, I don't think. I sent you a message with the link, like, hey, here's this pilot. It's not any good. I'd actually only watched about half of it at that point. I watched the second half of it yesterday, which is all the stuff once he gets to the comic book company.
Yeah.
And the first half, especially when it's just him and his wife and his daughter, it's really cheesy. The jokes are really bad. And then when he gets to the comic company, and it's kind of a generic workplace sitcom from that era. The characters are kind of weirdos, which is I think kind of what the Newhart other sitcoms were like. It was supposed to be a level-headed, tame, personality surrounded by a bunch of wackos.
Yeah, that one guy that was a cartoonist who said he was, he had to get out of the caricature game because it was a crazy racket. And now he's just drawing people. He's drawing celebrities with leeches on their face. I'm like, okay, that's pretty funny.
But yeah, I thought it got a little funnier as it moved along. There is another episode, which I'm assuming is the one with all those creators in it, that I do want to watch, where they go into some of the stuff about the comics code and the Seduction of the Innocent book.
Ooh, really?
I'm assuming you know about the Frederick Wortham's book, Seduction of the Innocent.
Yeah. I know where
kind of led to the comics code and all that stuff. Apparently, there's an episode that kind of focuses on all that stuff. So it's on YouTube as well. I found an article I haven't read the article in its entirety, but there is an article about this show and comic on CBR from about 3 years ago, and it's got links to that episode on it. So that's about all I have to say really about it. It wasn't very good. I like Bob Newhart, and it's weird that the show was already through like most of the first season before the first issue came out. In my memory, they came out around the same time, but that was 20 something years ago. So I was obviously wrong about that.
I think it's a really, again, like I said, I think it's a really, I want to say prescient. Like it's I want to say it's kind of before its time where, somebody kind of railing against, let's say that's probably what was going on in the 90s. But, it's interesting to see that in the early 90s, we have a comic creator, a character creator go in, and all of a sudden he is like, he does not want anything to do with the fact that somebody wants to 90s up this character. And I thought that was pretty funny. And it was so crazy to me that this existed and I didn't know about it. Like, I would have been all over this show. If somebody would have said, hey, there is a show out there on CBS about a guy who creates a comic book character. Yeah. And all the hijinks that happen at this, during this time while he's working there, I would have watched it.
Yeah, I believe when I was looking through some of the Wikipedia stuff on it, or maybe it was a different article I saw it on, that it was programmed on Friday nights. And it was part of a block that was supposed to compete with
TGIF,
the big ABC sitcom block. So, who watches TV on Fridays? Basically just families, and they're all watching TGIF. So it's not surprising that the show wasn't really successful and kind of slipped through the cracks. But
yeah, man, I'm trying to think. 93, so I'm getting ready to turn 15, and Friday nights if Full House is on, or Family Matters, or at this time it may, I don't know if Perfect Strangers was going, but I was probably definitely tuned into ABC, and there was no change in the channel for me.
Yeah, I watched a lot of TGIF stuff too, but I did hear about Bob, before it came out, and so I remember watching a few episodes and being really excited about the comic when it came out.
Yeah, so the comic, I mean, I've seen this comic. I own this comic. I've never...
But you didn't know the connection.
I had no clue. I mean, I remember sitting there going, "Oh, here's another '90s character I'll never hear of or see again," and I haven't. Not that I know of off the top of my head. But this was a 6-issue miniseries that was created solely for the purpose of tying it in with this show. Correct?
Right. That's to my understanding. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I own this. It's in a long box somewhere. So I had never had the chance to actually open it up, look into the history of it, and understand what was going on. And I also didn't know it was a flip book. So obviously, I've never taken it out of the bag.
So which cover do you remember?
Oh, it's the '90s cover. I mean, is it is it a flip book with a different cover on the other side?
Yeah, the back half is the Silver Age style Mad Dog cover.
Got it. Okay, because I mean that's.
It's like Marvel Comics Presents. The first.
Yep.
There's 15 pages on one side. You flip it over and read the other 15.
Okay. Okay. Well, I kind of that's what I thought. I mean, what I was looking at showed both the covers. So I was like, okay, obviously, if it's a flip book, the other side. So yeah, I've never taken it out of the bag, dude. I've never taken it out of the bag. It's still sitting there in the long box. So yeah, I remember the '90s cover with Mad Dog standing on top of the car, and I believe he's standing on top of a car. He looks very menacing. You don't want to mess with him.
One knee pad.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he does have another one. I'm sorry. I see.
Oh yeah, it's barely down there.
Like I said.
Yep. So yeah, and I never even cracked it open. So all right, anything else here before we jump into the synopsis? We're going to do the Silver Age synopsis first.
Sure.
All right. So when you look at the comic on the cover of the Silver Age iteration of Mad Dog. Let me look at something here. So Mad Dog, if you look at that, it has a dash in between it. Does it have a dash between it on the other cover?
Yes, it does.
Okay, all right. Just double checking. All right. So yeah, it looks like a typical almost Batman and Robin type of a cover where you have Mad Dog, the hero, dressed up in his tights and mask, and then you got Buddy. I mean, I don't know if we want to run the dog theme into the ground, but if you got a sidekick named Buddy, I mean, that's definitely.
He also has a dog sidekick who is not in the issue.
Oh, he does, really?
On the
Okay.
cover, though.
What is his name? Like Roof or Ralph or something?
Something that starts with an M, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well,
I've never read anything except for issue 1. I think I never had like all 6 of them, but I'll bet I had a couple more issues from around that time. I just don't remember any of the others.
Okay. Well, yeah, and as you can see right there, based on the character from the hit TV series Bob. All right. So
Hit loosely. It's all right though.
yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's a Silver Age cover. We see the dog there on the right-hand side of them. And
The great thing about the cover is the other covers in the background.
Yes.
Because
I was going to say
we see Mad Dog Buddy and the pup, in the foreground kind of jumping at the reader, but in the background there are looks like 5 other older Silver Age Mad Dog issues with covers, of kind of what you would think they would look like in that time. The best one is, of course, the one with a gorilla in the Mad Dog costume swinging on a branch, and Buddy is screaming out, "Hey, Mad Dog's been turned into a gorilla again."
That's hilarious, dude. Look at the one up there with the guy pulling the lever. All right, so Mad Dog, since you love America so much, I guess you won't mind being buried by 10,000 apple pies. That's pretty funny.
Yes. And the bad guy's name is the Un-American Eagle, which is classic.
Oh, jeez. All right, so looking at this here, cracking open the first issue here, we get a
the creative team is different, I think, for each issue.
Yeah.
Or each version. So this one is Ty Templeton, who was the writer and artist. And he's the guy who did the art on some of the Batman animated comics, right?
Ooh, I don't know. I recognize the name, but I don't know if it was Ty Templeton or not. I bet we could find out. Go ahead and give the rest.
I should have checked my.
No. That's what Google's for. We do it in the middle of the podcast. What are you thinking about the one before?
Editing is great.
Ty Templeton.
He has since said this is the worst thing he's ever done.
Oh, really?
I saw that quote somewhere when I was doing some of my research, but I don't remember where I read that.
He said,
one of the worst things.
It says, including Batman Adventures, The Simpsons, and many others. So he's probably got that animated style to him. I guess he recently did Batman 66, which I think we might have actually talked about on the Source Material podcast. But yeah. So was that what you were thinking of, Batman Adventures?
Yeah, that was it.
All right. Ty Templeton is our artist, and it's written, drawn, and lettered by Ty Templeton. So inks by Jeff Albrecht, Mike Worley on colors. All right. So yeah, like I said, we open it up here. This is Mad Dog versus the truly amazing space creatures from the Omega Galaxy, and we are treated to the skyline of, what is the name of this? Ballard City. Yep. The skyline of Ballard City, and in come a bunch of UFOs. That's a classic Silver Age trope right there. Here we have some UFOs coming into Ballard City, and we get to meet our protagonist here, which is Dr. Jeff Austin. I almost called him Austin Allen for some reason. Dr. Jeff Austin, who is the alter ego of Mad Dog, and his pal. What did he call him? The bravest boy. Yes, the world's bravest boy.
The world's bravest boy, Buddy.
He should have been the world's goodest boy, but he is the world's bravest boy, Buddy. And so
also,
anyway,
you can see how big the Bulls were at this time, because Buddy's wearing a Bulls t-shirt, and in the gritty version of Mad Dog, there is a guy with a Chicago Bulls jacket on. Yeah,
and I think takes place, at least I think the gritty version took place in Chicago. I don't know if there's a Ballard City in Illinois, but either way, it's not Chicago there. But yes, the Bulls are huge, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, Dr. Jeff Austin, who is a veterinarian, works at an animal hospital, and Buddy decided to go out check out what all the fuss is about. What's going on? We got these alien ships that just showed up, and they show up there, and here come the aliens out of their ships, and they are alien humanoid cats led by a feline called Warlord Krell. During all this, there was like a discussion about, we're going to immediately make the aliens American citizens. But we're not going to just rush to that. We're going to have a vote at City Hall in the evening. Okay. Town Hall, they're going to take a vote, and we'll see if we can make them American citizens. And throughout leading up to this, the Zetons, I think is what they are. Zeton Conquerors, I believe is. Anyway, you start to learn that, they're not as peaceful as they are presenting themselves.
Right.
They get to, when they finally are getting ready for this town hall meeting, and Mad Dog overhears, using his keen sense of hearing, that they are actually going to attempt to kill the human race. He learns that through a series of events. And during the town hall meeting, he busts in. Mad Dog and Buddy arrive and confront Warlord Krell in front of everybody. Just as Krell begins to deliver his speech about, okay, well, you know what? Never mind. We were going to infiltrate your species, but you know what? Instead, we're conquerors. We're going to destroy your human. We're going to destroy the human race. He starts to go into this coughing fit. Great stuff. So he starts to go into this coughing fit, and he starts coughing, and all his compatriots that have come down there to watch him deliver this speech, the Zetons are like, oh my gosh, oh no, he's going to succumb to they say he's going to perish. Death. Yes, the choking death.
The choking death.
The choking death. So he's sitting there hacking. He's laying on his back. He's hacking, and Dr. Jeff Austin,
we should specify doctor as in he's a veterinarian.
Yes, so definitely.
That dog is a vet.
That is right. So he says, Buddy, go fetch my satchel. Go get my bag. And as Buddy comes back, he reaches in and he pulls out Vaseline, and he puts it on Warlord Krell and says, here, take this, get this in. And sure enough, a few more coughs and out pops what the Zetons call the choker demon. And of course, there was a little bit of Heimlich maneuver involved as well. And so Mad Dog saved Warlord Krell's life. And so that they're obviously thankful, but we're going to leave the Earth, but there's one thing we need. The Zetons, the felines, the cats, the humanoid cats are requesting that they get some Vaseline to take back with them. Because apparently in eons and becoming actually spacefaring species, right, they have not figured out if they continue to lick themselves, they're going to get hairballs.
Now, I've never owned a cat. Are hairballs fatal?
Do
cats choke to death on those?
No, I would think we'd see a ton more dead cats laying around.
I was thinking they just hacked them up.
Yeah, that's usually wow. Maybe that's something to do with the whole, the fact that they're I don't know, humanoid felines. They just cannot. Whatever. Vaseline's going to take care of it.
A little different.
I don't know. All I know is that you can avoid this by just not licking yourself. It's not like hairballs just magically appear, okay? You could just stop licking yourself. You'll be fine. So anyway, there is Mad Dog issue 1. They leave Earth. The Zetons leave Earth peacefully. Mad Dog saves the day with his Vaseline and his keen sense of hearing. So, I mean, what'd you think, man? I mean, this was clearly an attempt at a Silver Age story. I had a chuckle at some of the stuff that was going on. Obviously, the hairball was hilarious, I thought.
Yeah, pretty lighthearted, almost kind of a quasi-parody. We got some great Silver Age xenophobia. The scene where he goes back to the town hall and he spots an infiltrator, like one of the aliens has got a human mask on, and he kind of points out, and the crowd kind of gathers around him. You can actually see a pitchfork in the crowd scene.
I see it.
Which I thought was a nice touch. And I like the art. It's really clean. I like the design of the spacesuits, and Mad Dog's costume is pretty. He's got like big dog ears, kind of like Batman style. They're kind of like Doberman, clipped dog ears sticking up in the air. But yeah, when he tells Buddy, hey, go to the vet's office and tell the doctor I need this bag. And so when Buddy gets back, he makes sure to like hammer into the ground. Here you go, Mad Dog. Dr. Austin gave me his veterinarian bag with no fuss when you said it was you. This good Buddy. And he said, give this to Mad Dog, who I've never met, but I've heard a lot of good things about. If you get my meaning, Mad Dog. And he kind of hammers that over. He has a couple other lines about it, the same thing. So, little stuff like that kind of made it a pretty enjoyable read. I kind of liked it.
Yeah, it had the Silver Age feel. There was just a lot of text, which is fine. That's what they're going for.
It took a minute to get through it.
I don't know if there's ever been a time where I've read a flip book and actually we're going to be getting into obviously a different style on the other side of this story. And when you talk about a different style, I mean, yeah, we're talking the nitty gritty 90s here, but man, the reading time is like a fourth
Right.
of what this was. And I was like, I remember when I was reading it, I was like, I can't believe I'm done with this part already. It took me like an hour to get through well, it didn't take me that long, but it's definitely showcasing the difference in the eras that they're trying to represent. But yeah, the humor. Go ahead.
I was going to say they're both parodies. Like the Bob McKay Mad Dog is kind of a Silver Age parody, and the modern gritty Mad Dog is supposed to be like a parody of modern comics.
Okay, now I didn't know that was actually a parody. I thought they were going to be like, okay, well, we've definitely this is going to be a character that we've got to try and get over somehow.
Right. Well, that article I mentioned, the CBR article, there was I don't know if there was actually a quote from the writer. We'll get into it more when we go to that issue.
Okay.
But the indication was that it was supposed to be a parody, but it reads like a straightforward 90s comic.
I thought that it was. I was like, this is 93.
They got it so close that it's more of just like, and it's kind of maybe hard to tell with just based on a 12-page, issue, what the tone they were going for was.
Yeah, it definitely was lost on me. I was like, well, this is,
yeah,
this is 93.
I never really considered that either until I had seen that in the article.
Oh, that's crazy.
That it was intended to be kind of a parody of modern gritty, style image and the remnants of the grim and gritty 80s and early 90s.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, yeah, and I was going to say, I mean, I think the humor is what kept me most entertained throughout this first part of the issue. The resolution about, and of course we're going to pit a dog against a cat in our first issue, and the fact that what brings peace about is a dang hairball is just hilarious. So, all right. Well, anything else on our first part before we get into the second part?
Nah, I'm good. We can move along whenever you're ready.
All right. So, I guess let me bring this up here. The back matter. It's not really back matter, but it's interesting because they dedicate a page to kind of show you what's happening at Ace Comics, which I guess I probably should have mentioned that at the beginning. That's the comic company that Bob McKay is working for. It's called Ace Comics. Mm-hmm. And there's some correspondence between Bob and Harlan about what they're doing with the book. And I don't know if you read that or not, but I thought it was pretty funny. The fact that what was strange was, okay, so the correspondence, I understand that. I understand what they're doing there. They're obviously pitting Bob and Harlan and their views and how they are handling things and against each other. But then you start like going down through. So I'm trying to figure out whose desk is this? Do you think is this Bob's desk? No, I guess it's Harlan's.
Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I would think it's Bob's just because there's like a ruler and
it's got to be Harlan's though, because we got like
all these Post-it notes. Yeah, it should be Harlan's desk, I guess.
So Time Traveler called 220. Call back. Time Traveler. I'm like, okay, that one makes sense. That one makes sense. Call Harold back. Flight to Alabama. And then we have this thing just out of the
something in the show.
I'm wondering too. You know what? It's a possibility.
One thing from the show, you talked about the boss who is just basically comes over the speakers at any time.
Yeah, he's like Charlie's Angels. What was that guy's name? But
Charlie, I guess.
Oh, okay. Was it Charlie
as well? But I forget his name.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, Charlie.
But that almost felt kind of like a news radio thing in some of the wackier later. Have you ever watched news radio?
I knew it was the thing, but I never watched it. I don't know much about it.
Well,
who was in that? Was David Spade in that?
No. Phil Hartman was the biggest name that was in it. But it was like an ensemble cast. There wasn't really a main character. It was Joe Rogan, I guess, is probably the biggest name that was in it now. But that was like the first thing he'd ever done.
How old is this show? Help me out.
Started in like 94.
Okay.
95 maybe.
That's what I was thinking. All right.
Yeah, it is legitimately, probably besides Seinfeld and if you want to count The Simpsons, other than those two, it's my favorite sitcom easily. It's really funny. I think it's streaming for free on some of the streaming sites, and you can find it on different TV, on syndication all the time still. But yeah, it's really funny. And as the series progresses, it gets a little wackier and wackier. But I'm on a tangent now. But yeah, news radio is awesome.
Okay.
The disembodied voice of the boss, that kind of gave me a news radio vibe, and I kind of wondered how how zany the show got as it went along. But
yeah, I just remembered like at the end of the first episode when Harlan and him, kind of shake hands, and he's like, I brought you a gift just in case you decided to go with us. And he gives him 93, dude. No, 92 gives him a cell phone. It's a portable phone. I was like, and then of course, the main guy's on the other end of the phone, and he has no idea. Of course, anyway, yeah,
that's early for a cell phone, though.
It is really okay. So yeah, time traveler called. Now we'll get into the second part of this. So Mad Dog number 1. Once bitten, as the cover says there. So yeah, my synopsis for this is real simple. Because this is a very, just like we said.
Yeah, there's not much there.
No, I mean, we have an older couple with their grandchild. They stop at a 7-Eleven. They're going to get some things, and here come some ne'er-do-well thugs who decide that they're going to steal their car. And it just so happens Mad Dog was doing some shopping as well. He comes out. He's itching for a fight. He ends up fighting the thugs, and of course we have a lot of dog cliches that happen. He can smell their fear. At one point, you can tell he's got like the dog teeth, or I should say the definite larger incisors, and he straight up bites one of the guys, one of the thugs. And at one point, he's dispatching these guys pretty violently. I think he takes one dude and like smashes his head through the window of the car.
Yeah, there's he holds the one guy up, and there's basically this blurred fist motion implying that he's just punching the guy over and over and over in the face.
Oh, jeez. He starts to see, at one point, the car starts to roll away. Now, the couple, I think the older couple are out of the car at this time. The only person that's in the car is the little grandbaby. And the car starts to roll away. And he goes, now, see, again, now I'm starting to think, okay, yeah, this is definitely a parody.
He's chasing a car.
He's chasing the car, grabs a hold of the car to stop it, and he's growling like a dog. He's rough as he's stopping it. So now, okay, all right. And it's so funny because I put that on my notes. I'm like, really, guys? Are we doing this? Clearly that was the point. Okay. Okay, so he ends up, saving the day. But at the end of it, the cops are reporting on it here, and we get a little bit of a teaser as to what's to come, where there is, I can't tell if it's his daughter. I think it's his daughter. I could be wrong.
Well, I'm assuming that's his wife because the girlfriend in the Silver Age version is a redhead.
Okay.
So I'm assuming this is his wife or girlfriend or maybe just a coworker. I don't know. But she clearly knows that this Mad Dog character, this vigilante character, is Dr. Austin Jeffrey or Jeffrey Austin, whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
We see in some of her notes here that it's the same alter ego as in the Silver Age version. She's
got a picture. She's holding a picture. So I bet you're right. I just noticed that it says Austin's Christmas, and I was
it could be his daughter because it looks like they've got a family and they have a daughter there. So that could be.
She doesn't look like the girl on a side there.
Right.
So anyway, all right. So we obviously that was like 3 panels. And then we also see there's a couple people at what is the name of this company? Transworld Trust. A couple men, some suits at Transworld Trust they're worried
Bastards.
that they are worried that this may be Dr. Jeffrey Austin, and he's going to, since now he has either made his reappearance, he is going to jeopardize the project, which I don't even think they have a name for the project, but there's this sinister project that's going on, and they are. We end it with, why should we fear an animal? A mad dog. People shoot mad dogs. So there you go. That's kind of your teasers of what's coming up. I saw the cover for, I think it's the next issue. And I don't know if you saw it or not, but it's got
I don't think I have.
Yeah, this is definitely, I wonder if they do, they got to do the flip book style here. Anyway, he's on the front of the cover, and he's got a bunch of like wires and they do definitely do the flip book thing. But anyway, he's on the front cover, and he's got a bunch of like wires and stuff. He looks like Weapon X, except it's Mad Dog. Okay?
I see it here. Yeah.
Pavlov's response. What is Pavlov? I've heard this.
I think that's a psychology reference, but I don't know what. Well, I'm not sure.
We're going to Google machine that up.
Sure.
We got to figure out what that means. Pavlov showed the existence of the unconditioned response by presenting a dog with a bowl of food and the measuring of its saliva secretions. A conditioned stimulus is a substitute stimulus that triggers the same response in an organism as an unconditioned stimulus. That's a lot of work. By the way, did you get your stimulus check? All right, there we go. That was my joke. I put it in there. Anyway, yeah. So, okay, there you go. Something to do with a dog. All right, man. Let's hear it. What else you got to say about our second part of this story, our nitty gritty 90s? I mean, what were your thoughts here of our second part?
Well, I was let's see. I actually had pulled up the quote, that article I had mentioned. It's from Brian Cronin on CBR. If anybody wants to look it up, but the quote about the parody thing was this issue was written by Evan Dorkin. It says, while Dorkin and Purcell play it relatively safe, producing what is technically a parody of 1990s extreme comic book series, but a parody that is so note perfect as to what an actual extreme 1990s comic book series would be, that it loses most of its satirical purposes. So that's kind of what we were talking about there with the. I think it does seem to be a parody, but yeah.
Yeah, you have to kind of. You pointed out the whole chasing after a car thing. That didn't even click. I mean, I understood like he was. I thought it was funny he was trying to stop it and growling at the same time. But then I realized, I looked at the panels. He is definitely chasing after a car. So, you probably have to dig just a little bit deeper than what you're seeing, and you'll be able to pick out some of the stuff that's definitely satire.
And the cover, we don't see Mad Dog really in his costume in the issue. We see him in like a trench coat. He's got he's definitely got the parody of a extreme loner,
he's
mad,
Wolverine. I mean, I got a Wolverine vibe from him
for sure. But on the cover, he's got kind of a black and red 90s-esque costume. He looks kind of like Ravage. That's the image that because he's got the flowing hair and stuff. But yeah, this issue written by Evan Dorkin, the artists Gordon Purcell, penciler, Ray McCarthy, inker. Not bad.
That's right. I forgot about the creative team. Good job.
That's cool. But yeah, solid, generic 90s action comic. He basically just beats up some gang members and saves a baby.
Yeah, yeah.
The most interesting thing about Mad Dog is definitely the connection to Bob.
Yeah.
And the most interesting thing about Bob is the connection to Mad Dog, the comic. Just the whole thing is kind of like such an oddity.
It really is. And I love the way that you brought this forth for Superblog Team Up by. This is an expansion from, I guess, if the TV show started first, this is definitely an expansion off of that universe by showing us physically in our hands. We hold a comic book that was
the very comic they're making on the show.
That's crazy. I think that was a really unique concept. I think it was something that, for me, I thought was pretty ahead of its time, to be honest. I mean, I don't remember seeing stuff like this at all. I'm getting into comic collecting at this time, probably around 92, 93. I'm starting to ramp back up what I used to collect. I was collecting in the 80s, but I wasn't really like feverishly going out and trying to get all the issues as much as I can. And this would have been something at least neat to know was out there. So I'm glad you picked it, man. I think it was a solid hit.
Sweet.
So, all right. Well, anything else here on Mad Dog, Bob? Anything else before we get into closing here?
No, just that I'm not going to be too quick to track the other issues down and read them, but one day I might check them out again because they're not without value. They're not great comics, or at least this issue was not great. The two stories definitely were left a little bit to be desired, but they're not altogether bad either. There were some funny moments in the Ty Templeton Silver Age Mad Dog in particular. But yeah, big Bob Newhart fan, so glad I got to talk about him a little bit too.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, let me just real quick want to shout out the rest of the participants and what is being covered on the Superblog Team Up. And now I think, let me look here real quick. I want to make sure that they have the topics that everybody is touching on as well on this. All right, so I'm going to run them down here. These are our friends, comrades in the Superblog Team Up that are participating this year and the subjects that they are approaching. So we got Superhero Satellite, which is Chris Bailey, his own, I think, blog there. He is covering Mask, The Road to Revolution, the franchise's journey from toy line to vintage 80s cartoon and to the comic book medium. Then we have Between the Pages, who is touching on the Star Wars expanded universe. Boy, there's a lot there. Comics.blog, Indiana Jones with a focus on the Marvel series.
Nice.
The further adventures of Indiana Jones. May also discuss the RPG game, which I got to remember when I'm doing mine. I got to bring up the Turtles RPG. May also touch on the RPG game, the Young Indiana Jones TV show, and the movie adaptations. Comic Reviews by Walt is doing the Aliens vs. Predator universe. Dave's Comic Heroes blog, Marvel's Logan Run by George Perez. The Telltale Mind is covering Archie Andrews, Superstar. Our buddies over at the Radulich in Broadcasting Network. This is Mark and his children, okay? He is taking his children to a TV set, and they are going to sit down, and they are going to watch Flash Gordon. And I imagine Mark's probably going to touch on a few other things as well about the expanded universe of Flash Gordon. But they're going to watch the Flash Gordon movie and do a commentary, from what I understand. So that will be, oh my goodness, how old is Jonas? I think he's 5 or 6. So we got a 6-year-old, and then we have a, I want to say, 11-year-old that will be chiming in. It'll be fun to hear what they have to say. Source Material Comics Podcast, myself and a few others. I know for a fact that Mark Radulich is going to sit down and read TMNT Ghostbusters, 2 of the most iconic 80s franchises. Well, so you say 90s. But hey, 80s fits with TMNT. So
yeah, they took off in the late 80s.
Well, you know what's funny? And one thing I got to remember to put on my notes is that I think I got to look this up right now. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was created. The comics hit in, I want to say 84. It says the TMNT comic book series has been published in various incarnations by various comic book companies since 1984. Guess what else got started in 1984? I didn't even know that until I was doing my research.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I knew it was early-ish in the 80s, but I wasn't sure.
Wow. So yeah, that'll be cool. I'll tell you right now, the series was a lot of fun to read and a lot of nods. And you should see my notes, man. I'm hitting the toys. I'm hitting the soundtracks. I'm hitting the movies. Source Material Comics Podcast covers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters. Ratbox Son of Cthulhu is covering Marvel's 2001 A Space Odyssey issues 3 and 6. So this apparently showcases Jack Kirby's crafting odd tales in Arthur C. Clarke's universe. The Daily Rios, Little Shop of Horrors, from movie to musical to movie musical to comic adaptation. The Bronze Age Babies are doing Marvel's Planet of the Apes magazine, a short story from the anthology Tales from the Forbidden Zone. Black and White and Bronze Comics is possibly doing it says might do crossover with Bronze Age Babies. All right. Lost in Comics YouTube, expanding the medium by delving into the world of motion/audio comics. Pop Culture Retroama, The Phantom Universe. What is that? What are we talking there?
Yeah,
are we talking The Phantom?
Yeah, could be.
Okay, all right. The Phantom Universe. Cavalcade of Awesome. They're going to be doing the Jumper Universe. This is the only thing I can think of.
Hayden Christensen movie?
That's what that came to my mind. I was like, wait a second. All right. Well, all right.
Sure,
The Jumper Universe. Michael May.online is doing Treasure Island Universe, and DC in the 80s is doing the TSR Universe in DC Comics, which that should be fun. So there you go. There's a rundown, folks. If you want to check out any of those, when the hashtag hits, which I believe we will be ramping this up on June 24th, 2020, just head to Twitter, type in hashtag SBTU for Superblog Team Up or hashtag Superblog Team Up. You're probably going to be able to easily find everybody that's participating in all the episodes that are there. So we appreciate Chris Bailey letting us get another episode in of Unspoken Issues to tie in with the Superblog Team Up. And I think that's it. So plugs. This is how long it's been since I've done podcasts. I don't even I used to have formats down in my head. I could go right into the next thing. Can't do that anymore. So, all right, Chris Armstrong. Let's hear it, man. What do you got to plug, buddy?
Not a whole lot. You can find me on Twitter at BrodyMan34. Check out UnspokenDecade.com for your 90s comics fix. That's pretty much it.
All right. Well, if you'd like to follow me, you can do so at Stiznarkey on Twitter. Just like I said, just like Chris said, keep an eye out on the Unspoken Decade Facebook page. There you will sometimes find our polls. You should find them more often than not. Here lately, we've scaled back just a little bit just because, number one, my availability has gone completely to my job that I actually get paid for. And things are starting to finally get back in gear, just like with the rest of the economy. So that means I might be able to be a little bit more free to do some recording. But yeah, so we apologize for not having as much content as we have had in the past. But don't worry, at some point we're going to start ramping that back up. Go to the Unspoken Decade Facebook page. You should be able to find a poll topic there. You should also be able to find links to some of our older episodes. I did have an inquiry from somebody recently. I don't know if you saw, Chris, but somebody sent us a message there on the Unspoken Decade Facebook. I told them, I said, hey, you can go to we have, I think all our episodes are on, half of our episodes are on Mark PC Live on YouTube, and then W2M Net. If you go to YouTube and type that in, you should be able to find the other half of our episodes. But at some point, I want to get all those together and put them all on the W2M network. So cool. That being said, thanks to the W2M network for letting us air this here episode on their fine channel. Go to W2Mnet.com and check out all the great podcasts that that network has to offer. So, Chris Armstrong, I'm Jesse Starcher. Let's get out of here. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Peace.